A very good evening to everyone who's joining us from India, and good morning to the ones who are joining us from outside. I'm Mashood Bhatt, and I would like to welcome all of you to this very special and interesting session of D Talks or Disruptive Literacy Talks. In the past couple of weeks, we've had some phenomenal speakers from India and from outside India who've really showered a lot of ideas, who've really triggered a lot of inspiring thoughts and innovative ideas on how we can take literacy forward for the millions of children who are still not part of this literacy journey. And in this series of talks at D Talks, our mission is to bring together these important voices, bring together decision makers, and bring together change makers from all across India and the world, and try and create a vision and momentum towards meeting the goal of universal literacy by 2030, as also committed by many countries under SDG 4. Uh, and today, it's an absolute honor to welcome a leading voice in the field of science and literacy. Joining us all the way from Harvard here, we have someone who has been a leading figure in her field of molecular cell biology. She has also been very interestingly involved in the field of literacy, and she has won the UNESCO International Literacy Prize in 2017. She's also won the World Literacy Council Award in 2018, and more recently in 2020 was honored with the UNHCR Nansen Refugee Award. And these are, I mean, the list is really long, but these are just to name a few. I would like to welcome here our speaker for today, Professor Rana Dajani. Uh, Professor Dajani, thank you so much for giving a very valuable time on this forum here.
Thank you for inviting me to be part of your amazing work and to learn as well as share.
Absolutely. So Professor Dajani, the honor is completely ours. And today, when we reached out to you, you've given us a very intriguing topic, and we are like really, the audience and all the members who are watching this and will be watching this are very interested to learn more about what you've given as a topic, as seeing what everyone sees, but thinking what no one has thought of. Uh, what is the idea? What is the vision behind this statement, in your opinion?
Yeah, so that's a statement that I adopted from a physicist who won the Nobel Prize. His name is Albert Georgi. And usually I don't tell my students the name, and I make them go and figure it out. So he said when he was talking about science, and he said a scientist is somebody who sees what everybody sees but thinks what no one has thought. And I say that it's not just the scientists, it's actually every human being is unique because their DNA is different from any human being who ever lived, who will ever live. And so they come new to this world with a fresh perspective, and they see the world around them that maybe hasn't changed much, but to that person, that new person, it's a whole new world. And so this allows us to explore and to have confidence in ourselves and the courage to think, what can I do to make a difference in this world? What is it that I see that no one else has seen? And then to go out and do something to make it a better place. So to me, I draw courage and I draw confidence and wonder and awe to make a difference in this world, because I am, and every human being is new to this world.
Absolutely, that's very interesting. And I think as educators, as people, who work around children, so that they are their capacities are built and they become resilient. It is clearly a very strong statement. And in your experience, you are a leading scientist. You're also an educator, and you have really experimented a lot with reading and what reading does to build the resilience of children. How have you used the instrument of reading to instill that love of learning among children?
That's a very important question, and actually, that is, and you've put your finger on the challenge. You know, we all talk about literacy and education, and we talk about how are, especially now with COVID-19, how are we going to maintain the education of our children? And people before COVID-19 have been talking about changing the education system, talking about a future that we don't know what it will look like. So if we don't know what it will look like, how can we prepare our students for that unknown world? And to me, the idea is it's not about preparing them with the knowledge that they want, because the knowledge is going to unroll as they go. And they have it on the internet at the tips of their fingers. And so this makes us take a step back and try to identify the pivotal points, those root causes on how to get our children not educated, but to want to be motivated to want to learn, right? Because this is basic marketing. It's not about giving something for free. It's about people wanting, realizing that they want this, and then they will go seek those opportunities to learn wherever they are, and they will identify those challenges as what suits them. And so, what we focus on is about motivating a child to want to learn. And how do you motivate somebody? It, as a human nature, it has to be connected with fun, with pleasure, with having a great time, with your passion. And hence, to us, if we're going to get a child to want to love to learn, first they have to love to read and to find joy in that reading and fun and pleasure. And so that's why we promote a program that fosters the love of reading in children in a way that they want to wake up at night, they don't want to sleep, wherever they are, they have a book and they want to read it and they can't wait to finish it. That motivation and that fun and pleasure of reading is what will lead a child to want to keep on reading and therefore learning forever. And so they become lifelong learners. And it all starts by just helping a child fall in love with reading. And then you don't have to figure out anything else, because the child will be the guide. And what people do usually is they put the cart before the horse when they say, we need to put an education system, we need to train the teachers, we need to build a school, we need to change the curricula. Yeah, that's all important. I'm not saying it isn't. But if the child is not motivated to want to learn, all that will not help. So again, going back to the root cause.
Right. That's a very important point which you have made, which where often we try and create educate structures of formal education around a child, and thinking that how do we make this structure which helps them improve their learning, etc. But sometimes we forget that the structures are made in such a way that the child does not remain at the center, and then reading becomes a chore. Maybe preparing reading becomes like a task to prepare for your examinations. We sometimes really lose the plot there as well. uh, here you have also mentioned about your project, We Love Reading, and would you like to share about what was the trigger for you to really go ahead and start something like this? As in, what was your inspiration? Which what was the context in which you started this, and did you face any challenges in really starting the project there?
Yes, so that's the start of the We Love Reading program started with that saying, right? Seeing what everybody sees, but thinking what no one has thought. So, when people change situations, whether your home or your village or your work, you see things that you haven't seen, right? Good things that you appreciate, and sometimes not so good things that you think should be changed. And so I had traveled and came back to Jordan, and I realized that children don't read for fun. Like you said, they read for school. There's, in Jordan, there's a very high literacy rate. They read for religion, but not for fun. Like under the covers, can't wait to read, rather than, I can't wait to be done with education and I tear my books, right? So, and I realized that this reading for fun is what made me who I am and inspired me to not just discover the worlds around me, different cultures, different people, and to learn to listen and respect different people, but also it helped give me vocabulary. to express myself. So rather than being angry, I can use my words, and I can express myself better. And it also helped me be the hero I read about and getting the confidence to be the change maker. So all this made me who I am. And I thought it's a crime for every child not to fall in love with reading to be able to do that. So I started using my scientific training and asking the question, how come children don't love to read? And I found out it's because nobody reads aloud to them. There's no role model that they would imitate and emulate. And it's not about the books. People think that if you give books, that'll make a child fall in love with reading. No. If you don't love to read, even if you give 10, many books, and we know that many houses have books, but children don't love to read. And so I put my finger, I found the root cause, which is every parent should read aloud to their child, even as early as when the mother's pregnant. Because as the brain of the child is developing and the neurons are making connections, there becomes an association in the brain of the child, the feeling of security and happiness and safety that's associated with reading that stays with them as they grow older. And that's how they become lifelong readers and therefore lifelong learners. So what did I do? I thought I found the solution, right? But what do? Do I knock on every door and tell every parent you have to read aloud? That's impossible. Do I tell the government to pass a law? But even if they did, that doesn't guarantee that the parents are going to read aloud. So I thought the least I can do is for me to read aloud to my kids. Yeah, I do that, but that's not enough, right? So I thought the least I can do is to gather the children in my own neighborhood and read aloud to them. And that's how the We Love Reading program started, where, and I chose to read, I wanted a public space that can be present in every neighborhood in Jordan. And in Jordan, for us, we have mosques in every neighborhood, just like other countries have churches in every neighborhood or temples. And I thought, this is a place I'm going to start with, because to me, that's the easiest thing. And I gathered the children and got some books, reading in the native language, because if it's going to be for fun, it has to be in the native language, not some other language I have to learn, and it's a chore and it's difficult. And it's books from the local culture. So I can see myself as a child in the book, and books that are fun, about the child who wants to run away, the child, not the perfect child. Nobody wants to listen to the story of a perfect child, because that reminds you of your own shortcomings. And so I got these stories together, and my family and my husband and my kids, and we started reading aloud. And of course, the children came first because they thought their parents told them to come. In our culture, the children are very obedient. But then when they saw it's all about fun, not school or education or religion, they fell in love with reading. And they started not just enjoying to listening to the reading aloud, they took the books home. So that's very important, that the child takes the book home and starts reading aloud to themselves, or begging their parents to read to them, or they read to their siblings and friends. And so we changed the culture where the child became the driver of reading rather than the parent begging the child to come to read. And this resulted in children asking for books instead of toys, wanting to go to school, because not because the school is any better, but because they realize that if I go to school, I can learn to read and I can unlock the magic and have even more fun. And that's how We Love Reading actually started. And what happened is that it developed after 3 years of kind of trial and error in my neighborhood, figuring out a model. Now, today, it's a training program that trains youth and adults from age 16 to 100 years old how to read aloud as an art, and how to start a reading aloud program in your own neighborhood. And you read in your native language, whatever that is. You choose a space. Like I said, I chose the mosque. Somebody chooses a church, a community center, under a tree, your home, on the stairs, wherever you feel comfortable, because you know better where the kids are and where they will come and when they will come. So you create a regular schedule. And you, as you graduate from this very simple training program, you become something called a We Love Reading ambassador. And you own the program. It's yours, and you get all the credit from the neighborhood because you're a volunteer. We don't pay anybody. But the motivation to keep you going, that incentive, is that feeling of responsibility and agency and credibility and credit that you get from the community, who doesn't know about us. They only know about you, the We Love Reading ambassador who's reading aloud to the kids and making this difference in the community. So the impact of the program is not just on the children falling in love with reading, but it's on the adult or youth, the ambassador who's reading aloud, who suddenly realizes that she is a leader, that she can make a difference in her own community, that and so she starts thinking beyond not just the reading to the kids. She thinks, if I can do this, what else can I do? And hence our vision is changing mindsets through reading to create change makers in the children and the adults and youth and then the whole community.
Wow, wow, that's truly phenomenal, and that's also something which we are, through these talks, in these series of talks, what we are also trying to do is to bring together, voices such as yourself who've really had these innovative solutions, and so that we learn from what has worked in different settings and maybe also replicate them in different situations as well. You mentioned about the community ambassadors or the leaders who would actually take the initiative to read with the children. Could you tell us a bit more about who were these volunteers, and what was their motivation to be part of this project?
That's a very important question. So these are community members. Like I said, they range different ages. We have teenagers who want to do something in their community, whether it's for their school or because they really have that sense of responsibility, or they have extra time on their hands, or they are employees who feel that they're tired of the routine and at work, and they feel that they can do better for their community, especially seeing the challenges that people are facing. Or it's retired grandparents who are done with work and they feel that they have they're not doing anything useful for the community. So this gives them a feeling of importance. Sometimes we have cancer patients who are going through rehabilitation, like Nabila, who to her this was an incentive to wake up every morning. We have also like retired military, again, finding a new purpose in life. We have people who have refugees, who to them have found through We Love Reading a new purpose in life, to take ownership back and build their own resilience rather than to be victims waiting for some international organization to give them aid, for them to take control of their own community. So people vary across gender, across sectors, socioeconomic sectors. We have people who are very affluent who still realize that this is a challenge everywhere in every sector. We have sometimes teachers who want to do more, and parents, right? Parents who want to invest in their children, not just about feeding them and giving them vaccines, but also to feed their brain and make sure that they have a healthy mental health. And the reason why this is so is sometimes we think of this as an education program, but really we realized, especially with COVID, that this is a mental health program. Because what we found is that these ambassadors and the children who are going through these stressful situations, when they sit together and read a child's book, this gives them a safe space, a space away from what's happening around them that they can create and imagine. And this helps not just reduce the anxiety and stress, and builds their resilience and positivity to handle life and what comes with it. So we promote We Love Reading also and not just as an education program building education resilience, which is motivation to learn, but also building mental resilience. And maybe I want to add something also, is that we emphasize, in order to do that, the human interaction. So we don't read books from a tablet or a phone, because that takes away the human component. And as a species, we evolved we're social creatures. We need that, we need to look in the eyes of each other. We need to touch each other. This is how how our brains develop emotionally and socially to be healthy. And so we emphasize that human interaction by reading a physical book with a child, because that's the only way you can foster that love of reading. But back to our ambassadors, what we're doing today, because I'm a scientist, we want to always integrate science and find the evidence to show the impact of the program, and also to learn to develop the program even better. So we do two things. One, we tell ambassadors, who again are volunteers, and they volunteer because they have the sense of responsibility towards their community. After they take the training, they have the total freedom to quit if they want to anytime. And if you have the freedom to quit, you never quit. That's the secret sauce. So I have the secret sauce, and because they're doing it for themselves and they don't have to report to anybody, they feel this pride, and that's how they keep on reading even years after they took the training. We have people who have been reading for 5 and 6 years after the training. And when international NGOs adopt our program, they say, "You don't pay the volunteers?" And we say, "No." And they said, "Oh, but you're going to fail." And we say, "Nope, we're not, because we have our secret sauce. We know, this is human psychology." And then they go and they train the women and men. And when they interview them, after months or years, the ambassadors tell them, "We're not reading for you. We're reading for ourselves, for our community, for our own children." I remember a refugee woman, Majd, and her husband in Azraq camp in Jordan, how she started reading aloud to the kids, and then she was so happy, so proud, so fulfilled. She sent to her father, who was on the Syrian-Turkish border, sharing with him what she was doing. And he sent her this whole poem about how reading transforms us and transforms how we think, and how we think of ourselves and the world. And we have so many stories of fathers who have discovered, and how their voices, their children now don't look at them as the tough father who's just giving orders, but this wonderful person that they enjoy the interaction through reading of stories. So a whole new world is discovered by these ambassadors as they work. And the cool thing is that these ambassadors, what we're doing is we're doing research with the international universities to try to understand what is it in the program that has allowed them to become these leaders in their community. In a way, they have become social entrepreneurs, because, like I said, some of them have actually gone beyond, found a better job, or created their own nonprofit organization, or tackled a new challenge. We had a woman who started a whole biomass compost in her neighborhood and got an award from the municipality for her work. So we have many, many stories of how these women and men and youth have went on. And so we use We Love Reading now, not just as an education program for children, but actually as a social entrepreneurship program for you, to inspire youth and adults.
Wow, that's again very very interesting. In fact, we also had a similar experience here in India in our Global Dream Literacy project, where there's a village in the state of Uttar Pradesh called Karoni. It's a very small village there, and what we found there was that we had after a survey, there were around 22 women who themselves did not have very high education qualifications. Most of them were grade 5, grade 6 pass, but they were looking for that opportunity to serve, and they used some of our literacy toolkits to go and teach. And what we saw was absolutely phenomenal. These 22 women became very confident, and they actually made their whole village literate. They made all the women of their village literate. The men didn't seem to be very interested in becoming literate, so they would generally be more shy and coming to learn about this. But it just showed that if there's that there's that spirit to serve, and that opportunity, when that spirit meets opportunity, it can just lead to marvelous results as well. So that's one.
Yeah, I just want to comment. That's why we say We Love Reading allows women mostly, but we have men and youth, to discover their voices literally by reading, and figuratively by discovering their own, let's say, powers to make a difference in their community.
Absolutely. So I think we are getting some comments from the audience as well. I think one of the audience members, Anushri, is saying community ambassador is a really nice initiative to take ownership as a role model to make reading and start a routine in the community setup. Here we are talking about community based initiative. You also mentioned some of the teachers who wanted to do extra participating in this initiative. How was the experience for them? And here I would like to bring in that conversation which you were having about you know how can we develop that reading culture within school education systems as well, which are kind of more rigid that way. And what role do teachers have, given that 6 hours you're in the school, then most of the time you're in the community. how do we like plug any gap in the middle?
Right, that's a very important question. So our approach was that we believe, and this is based on research, and again, we've done a lot of research on the children themselves to see how We Love Reading impacts them, and I can talk about that later. But what we found is that in order for a child, I mean, the whole issue of education is to motivate the child to want to learn, right? Because, like I said, we don't know what the future is going to what's going to happen, and we cannot control that, and we don't have enough funding to do that. So rather than worry about the horse, sorry, the cart, let's get the horse ready, right? So in an ideal situation, every parent should be reading aloud to their child as soon as they're born or even before. Now, that's not ideal. So We Love Reading comes in as a substitute for the parents at the level of the community to get that child prepared, falling in love with reading by listening to read aloud stories by one person in the neighborhood as a substitute for the parents. So that when the child is ready to enter school, first they are motivated, they want to go to school, right? They already have that intrinsic motivation. And so whatever happens in school, it's no problem because that motivation is what drives them. Now, what would be great if the school could then complement what's happening in the community or in the home by where the teachers are also reading for fun, so that now the child is experiencing this environment of reading for fun, not just at home and in the community, but also in the school. Okay. Now, however, to start with the school without the community, to me, is not the right way, because the child enters the school, they're not ready, right? They're not primed, they're not conditioned. So, and it's more difficult to enter the school because of all the reasons you just mentioned: the bureaucracy, so it's so difficult to change, and the teacher herself or himself are so overwhelmed with finishing the curricula. They're underpaid, they're not appreciated. So entering the school system is more difficult. And that's why we said, no, let's go into the community, harness that energy of the community, that care, and prepare the child, prime them. And so whatever happens in the school, the child is ready and can handle it. However, those teachers who have been motivated enough and started reading aloud in their own school, in their own classroom, have fantastic results. But it's not easy, right? And that's why actually today we have a big grant coming up from UNICEF to adopt and adapt the We Love Reading program for schools. So we have to make some changes and adaptations. And one of them is that the child cannot be read to by their own teacher, because in the eyes of the child, the teacher is the one who's judging. The teacher is the one who's giving a grade. The teacher who one's going to ask him if he or she did his homework. How can the child let go and have fun, right? It doesn't work. And so we tell the teacher, if you're going to read aloud, you got to read aloud to a group of children who are not your students, so that they can enjoy you without all the other things that comes with being in a classroom. Because again, if you're going to enjoy reading, the child has to put their legs up. They have to fall asleep. And the child will not do that in front of his teacher. They're conditioned not to do that. So again, it has to be with a different group of children. So we're working on this. But again, school systems are out with COVID, right? So that's why we have to really reimagine a whole new education system that's totally different and disruptive, as these talks are, and what they aspire to imagine education that's community driven, that's where the child puts the pace, where the child drives that learning experience going forward. And that's what we are trying to explore together. And that's why with our We Love Reading ambassadors, we keep telling them, share with us your experiences as you start reading aloud in your neighborhood, because everything they share with us, we use that and incorporate it into the next training. And that's why our training is actually co-created, co-designed with the thousands of We Love Reading ambassadors around the world. And by the way, We Love Reading has actually now spread to 63 countries around the world. The newest one was Djibouti. And what happens is that as every new person adds, we learn from them and they learn from us, and they create a community, a network of ambassadors around the world who are at the level of the street, kind of taking the pulse of what's happening around the world. And these are amazing men and women. And that's why we've been called the social movement, right? And we envision at some point that this social movement will spread to reach every neighborhood to reach every child around the world, because we think it's a crime for a child to grow up not discovering their inner potential and the outer world around them.
Wow, that's absolutely wonderful. And you mentioned 63 countries. So, I mean, that's like a huge expanse. So, which geographies are these wonderful people working?
Yeah, that's a great point. Well, actually, everywhere. So I write many. So we have many countries in Africa: Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and then all North Africa. And I'm just giving examples, right? Congo, Ghana. Then we have in all the Middle East as well, all the Arab countries. Then we have countries in Southeast Asia. So we have Indonesia, Malaysia, Pakistan. We have a few people in India, and then we have Australia and Latin America. So we have Brazil, Argentina, Peru, and then we have even North America. So we have people in the U.S., in New York, in New Haven, in Urbana-Champaign, North Carolina, Canada, and then in Europe we have England, Germany, France, the Netherlands, Denmark. So everybody wants to fall in love with reading. So it's not a socioeconomic divide. We know everybody requires it. And by the way, we're very proud to say that this is, yes, it's maybe a more of a challenge in developing countries, but even developed countries need it. And to me, what's cool, what I tell my students, is that this is something that started in Jordan, which is a developing country, and it's being exported all over the world, even to the north or the west, whatever we want to say. And usually we have been used to ideas and programs coming from the west to the east or from the north to the south. And we're very proud to say, no, every human being, again, seeing what everybody sees, thinking what no one has thought, has something they can give to the world. And we should be proud and confident that we will solve our own problems, but not just that, we can actually export them to the world to make a difference.
Right, that's phenomenal. Here we would like to play a very short video about this project as well. And I mean, you already very elaborately explained about this project, but I wanted our audience to also see some of the images from this project as well. So I'll just play this short video here.
When a child falls in love with reading, they are discovering their inner potential and the whole world around them. And this is something that every child should experience, wherever and whenever they are. My name is Rana Dajani. In 2006, I was in Jordan in a neighborhood in eastern Amman, and that's when I realized that children don't read for pleasure. Because I'm a scientist, I started asking myself, why don't children read for pleasure? Applying the scientific method, I started asking questions, making observations, digging through the literature, and I realized that the way for a child to fall in love with reading is by having a role model, a parent who's reading aloud to the child, so that the child now falls in love with reading because of the experiences that he sees around him and the role models that he emulates. And to me, it was about trying something small. It's just about gathering kids and reading in your neighborhood. Most refugees don't know what's going to happen in the future, and this actually impacts their mental health. These children are also have been exposed to trauma of war, of displacement, by getting lost in a book that helps them heal from whatever challenges and difficulties they're facing in the world around them. The child needs something to hold on to where he can go away in his mind, to be away, a safe place. Children who have been read aloud to, who fall in love with reading, will have found that haven. It's that magic that transforms the child to become a person who is healthy and who can go forward in being optimistic and resilient. And if I change one person, then I'll have done my a little part. To me, it's the butterfly effect. So I feel what I've done in my neighborhood was being that butterfly who did something that was small, but the impact is the social movement of hundreds and thousands of butterflies. One thing we came to realize is that Wheel of Reading's impact is actually threefold. The impact on the children, the impact on the Wheel of Reading ambassadors, the adults, and running the programs, and the impact on the community as a whole. If you love to read, you will become a lifelong reader and therefore a lifelong learner. And that's all that we need to become global citizens to make a difference in this world.
Right. So a truly beautiful and phenomenal journey there with this project. So here now we would like to also invite the convener of Detox, and she's also the lead worker here at the Global Dream Literacy Project, Dr. Sunita Gandhi, to also share her perspective. Welcome, Dr. Gandhi. Thank you for joining us. And we were just talking to Professor Dajani about about this movement of reading for pleasure, reading through these community volunteers and who have gone on to become leaders as well. So would you like to share your thoughts on this?
Well, I think that what Professor Dajani is doing is truly path-breaking. It is something that is also a socio-psychological study. What she has shared, for example, about the volunteers, the ambassadors, being able to be engaged with it for a very long period of time without having to be nudged or motivated externally. And I think that intrinsic motivation is what she's created is quite extraordinary. It doesn't happen in every program. We tend to think in a very traditional way about how to roll out a program. And what she has done is by setting it free, she's actually made it more powerful. And so she kind of has unleashed truly a very remarkable process we can all learn from. As far as I've been listening intently to her, and not just this time, but the last time we had the opportunity to hear her, which was during Ed Leadership just a few months ago in January this year. So I'd like to say that, there are lessons for every NGO, for every social worker, for people who would like to make a difference at the policy level. This whole thing about not quitting and continuing with the program, how do you create that feeling from within that this is good and that help us high that we feel when we do something good, and making it an enjoyable process, not just, oh, I'm doing this social service. A conscious act of service always is a conscious act. It requires somewhat of a thinking. Here's a subconscious, there's something, it becomes a habit and you enjoy doing it. So that's something I'd love to know more about from her. And also about how you start your chapters. How do people get to know about you? How do they embrace you? And how do they learn from you? In what formats are you available to them? Be lovely to know a little more.
Great. Thank you very much for your comments. They are so insightful. I'm quoting you. I'm writing as you speak. Thank you very, very much. To answer your comment, your questions. First of all, I think one important thing, in addition to the points that you highlighted about how this allows people to discover their inner potential, is that everyone has not just the freedom to quit if they want to quit, and the power of that, but also that there's no competition. Everybody sets their own pace. So if you took the training, that's by itself enough, and you decide you don't want to read, it's okay. You have already raised your awareness to the importance of reading. If you decide you only want to read to your kids, that's fine too. You're making a difference in your family. If you decide to go more and read aloud to the kids around you in your community, that's even better. And if you want to go more and more, so you stop wherever you want and you set the pace, and then maybe a year later you say, no, you know what, I'm ready to go to do more. So nobody's pushing, nobody has any expectations, and that feeling allows you to relax and slowly, because these things, like you said, are very subconscious, and they need to mature. They need, it's like cooking, it has to stew. You can't cook something good really quick. It has to take its time. And so I think that's what We Love Reading allows. By giving this freedom of no pressure, people discover what they want. And we've had fantastic stories where a woman would take the training, take the bag of books, and then send them back, pay to send them back, and says, I'm not ready now. And then a year later, she says, I'm ready now. Can I have the books back? And these are women who are, who don't have a lot of money. And this which leads to the second point, which is trust. We trust them. It's about trust. When you don't trust somebody, that he or she will fulfill your assumptions. And when you trust people, you bring out the best in them. And I think this is something we also lack, this lack of trust. And unfortunately, sometimes it comes from the international NGOs coming in for whatever reason, whether it's the donor or whatever, but they want to make all the paperwork and there's no trust. And so they foster lack of trust. So trust is fundamental. The other point you asked is, how did it spread? How do people learn about it? So actually, it's again, it's like it's spreading like a social movement, as somebody wrote a book about us. I like to say it's like a good virus, not COVID-19.
A virus.
Exactly. Across borders, it doesn't matter. And with more transportation and social media, it's transporting even faster. And so what we found is that either through social media, word of mouth, and because each person becomes the program, they're so proud they talk about it. So it just, every week or two, we get an email or a Facebook message or something on social media saying, I've heard of the program, I want to start. So we have an online training now. In 10 languages, and I think Hindi is one of them. And these are translated by volunteers. It's free. It's just 4 hours. It's very low bandwidth. Anybody can go take it and stop whenever they want and then pick it up. And one thing about COVID-19 that I learned from is that I let it go. It's for free. And when you let something go again, you find all these wonderful, amazing people who want to work with you and make it even go further. So we have fantastic partners who are picking it up or supporting us in different ways to make it spread. And it's because of, again, we give it away. It's not owning it. And I want to, I have to know what's happening. So when I say 63 countries, it's not that we have an office. These are people who have done it. And also, people who go from one person in one country to, like in Vietnam, we have 700, or Uganda, we have like 300 people or more. And I want to say, I also believe, I have faith that it's in more places than I know, because I was 2 years ago in America, in Urbana-Champaign, giving a talk about something totally different. And this woman comes up to me and tells me, aren't you the founder of We Love Reading? And I said, yeah. She said, oh, I've been doing it in my church from 2 years ago. And she never emailed us. She was my celebrity. I took pictures with her. It's like, wow, you're amazing. Her name was Dawn. So I believe it's the program is in other places more than we know. And our dream of really reaching every child will come true.
That's tremendous. I mean, at a basic level, it's all about reading, isn't it? So what's the magic potion that you put in that makes it all, become special and different? I mean, I do know some of it, what you've said, but how would you attract the next person, or me as an ambassador, if I took it up? How will I say what's magical about it?
I think it's about sharing and listening to you. What are you thinking about? What do you think is important? What do you want to do for your community? How can you use this program for you to make your community better? So I am listening to you. I am learning from you, and you are the expert. Nobody knows more about your community than you, and we need you. The world needs you. That's what I would tell anyone who wants to start We Love Reading.
Right.
So you are providing that training yourself, the 4-hour training, or
Yes.
then it's getting translated into different languages? How does that work?
So it's a series of short videos and some text. We try to replicate the real training, and we had to do that because of COVID and to reach more people and for it to be accessible to all. So it's trying to replicate that interactive, because it's a very peer-to-peer kind of training. So you listen to a short video, and then you answer some questions, reflect on yourself, and then what we're doing now actually is working with partners to create a digital network of the We Love Reading ambassadors around the world, so that they could talk to each other. And so we do it now through WhatsApp and other mediums. But our vision is we're piloting a kind of mobile app where people, if somebody from India or Zatari in Jordan or Argentina, can talk to each other, and help each other and support each other to really grow personally and to grow the program.
How do they access the library of books, or do you recommend any? Can they go and pick up their own? How does that work?
Good. So if you're in Jordan, for example, we can give you the books. However, for all over the world, what we do is part of the training is how to choose a good book. What is a book for reading aloud? And then, so that helps the ambassador to go find her own books in her own language, right? And if, for example, we have some ambassadors from indigenous communities in Mexico or in Australia or in Upper Canada. So what we did is we've developed a module on how to write your own story in case your language is, there's no stories about it. So it's a very short, easy, one pager, and then you can actually write your folklore. And by the way, when the indigenous community in Mexico, they loved it because this was a way for them to document their own history and stories and culture. And they felt confident to send their kids to school, even if they're learning Spanish, which is different from their culture, but they were able to maintain their identity and that of their children and pride through the reading aloud.
It's phenomenal, Rana, because I'm just wondering, getting into 63 countries, I think that is not a small accomplishment, and that's the understatement, because as you said, you discover along the way that there are many more that you may not even know, because the ambassadors carry it from here to there. And so you have created like a chain reaction. So it's very scientific, a virus that's growing by itself and mutating, hopefully.
Oh, I like that. That's something I didn't think of. Mutating in a good way, to adapt. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's mutating, it's becoming permanent. Nobody can get rid of it. You can't shed it away, which is all good.
I love that.
What? So yeah, it was very fascinating. But do you ever try to reach out to people and NGOs and governments to see if they'd like to take up your program, or you kind of leave it to God to multiply the virus?
Okay, I love it. I mean, I'm going to quote you. You're very good. You put your finger on the thing and you have the right words. But yeah, so we leave it to God to spread, because that's the one you can guarantee. But the other ones, so yes, we do. So we reach out to because we've won so many awards and that help maintain our credibility, and we do all the research. So we have a lot of research with Harvard and Yale and Brown University and Columbia that have showed the different aspects of how the child has not just improved in their literacy, reading practices and attitudes, but also their emotional growth and their love of learning, love of going to school. So we reached out to NGOs, big NGOs, international NGOs, and what we did is we partner with them, offer them to license the program to them, because they have money, right? They get grants and they have a budget. So for them, we say, let's partner. We license the program to you on an annual basis for a certain number of users, and then you can roll it out yourself. So we have a coach training, or train the trainer, where we can train them to roll out the program. And we've done that. We've done that in Jordan with NRC, with Mercy Corps. We've done it in Uganda with Plan International. In Ethiopia with Plan International. So we've done it with different international organizations, and also with government. So we've talked to our government, the Jordanian government, Ministry of Social Development, who are very interested, because they want to create a national movement for reading in the country. We also, the former prime minister, because our prime minister changes quite frequently because of the instability in the region, but we won't go there. So they were very interested, and actually, opened our first conference and wanted to support, making this, integrating it into schools. Hence, UNICEF now working with us, trying to see how can they work with it within the school system, especially after COVID, with kids being out of school for a year and a half. How can we help them catch up? So by involving the community and the parents, we are working with the Ministry of Education. So that's where we are, but we're always looking for new opportunities, new ideas, new suggestions. How can we work together? And we'd love to do something more, in India. We have individuals who have picked it up, but we're always open.
I think we're looking forward to the possibility of a tie-up. We can discuss offline, but very interesting. I mean, I think it's fascinating how you take an idea from its inception, an idea that is based around a need you saw, and make it real and a worldwide movement. I think you're a subject of great study in itself. So I'm delighted and just totally humored by the fact that you're here with us and entertaining us at all. So thank you, Ranaji.
Thank you. I am actually honored, and because I've learned a lot, very, very much. So thank you very much, and for all the good work you're doing in these series of talks and what's going on inside the country and beyond. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I think we've not shared with you our literacy program. Mashood, did you have anything to say? I think you did gesture to say something.
Yes.
Please proceed.
Right. So yeah. I mean, again, I would like to thank Professor Dajani and Dr. Gandhi as well for their perspectives in terms of how how the whole We Love Read project has been working. The vision, that's also vision which we at here at Global Dream also share. And what we noticed was just like the requirement of a national movement for reading in your country of Jordan. That's also something which we feel is very important, and that's what we've been advocating here in India as well, where the common people are able to participate in this mission of literacy. India, of course, has a very large population. I mean, nearly 37% of the world's adult illiterate population stays in India. So it's quite a major challenge here to get people, especially adults, to one, work for their own literacy, and then secondly, also to kind of help build that culture of reading and literacy in their communities as well. So for that, we have been researching, and we've taken an experimental approach where we have developed certain toolkits, and these are very simple toolkits which do not require a lot of training. Any even children as young as 10 to 11 years old or who've just entered upper primary school are able to use that toolkit to teach other adults who might not be literate. And what we found that in a period of around 15 to 20 hours of reading, of teaching and learning, adults are actually able to become go from zero level no letter recognition to grade 3 foundational literacy level as well. And we have been trying to do these different projects with communities, with schools. Nearly 500,000 school children have used our toolkits to go and teach illiterate adults in their communities, or if there's someone in the family who's not literate, because you have a lot of first generation learners as well, where the child is the first person to go to school, right? So it's exciting to kind of see that the potential of young children, not just to learn but to teach as well. And we hope to continue this momentum with organizations such as yourself doing such phenomenal work at an international level as well. And here we would like to thank you once again, Professor Dajani and Dr. Gandhi as well. I think it has been a phenomenal and very inspiring session, and all the members or the stakeholders who are connected, who will be listening to this, and who are joining us live as well. I think there has been a lot of food for thought, a lot of triggers, or a lot of inspiration to actually join this movement. So, I mean, in conclusion, Professor Dajani, if you'd like to say, how does everyone who's listening to this, how do they join this disruptive literacy movement? What would be the actions? Should they send you an email or a Facebook? What would be your preference?
Yes, but before I want to just comment on your amazing program that you just explained. I've looked at earlier. It also it touches on the same point, which is that motivation. So when the child and focusing, like when the child is teaching the adults, imagine how that changes the child's perspective, confidence, feeling of responsibility to make a difference in their community. And as Dr. Gandhi, you said, these programs that have this impact, who are coming in a disruptive way, in a new way, need to be studied so that they can impact and influence program development all over the world. Because I think those programs that are developed locally by the local people who understand the problems are those that are more sustainable and efficient and effective than those done by experts on a table in New York. And I think these need to be highlighted, need to be studied well, so that others can use them for other types of programming, whether it's health or hygiene or anything else, and to harness that potential. So thank you for your amazing work as well. To me, now anybody can actually go to our website, welovereading.org. Very easy. It's all about we love reading. It's an action sentence and collective we. And you can contact us there. You can go to our social media, We Love Reading. Find us Twitter or Facebook, Instagram, and also send us a message. My email is always available. Anybody can reach my email. I think you just Google my name, you'll find my email. And I don't mind anybody sharing it from you as an organization. And I'm very apt at responding to anybody who sends an email and forwarding them to the right people. Now that we always tell, you have heard of We Love Reading. Now you have the ball, it was in your court. You have to do something with it. Whether you share it with your family, you talk about it, and I tell everybody that if you're in a taxi, you got to talk about We Love Reading. If you're on a plane, you talk about We Love Reading. You just have to share that good. The least is for you to read, right? Read to yourself, even 10 minutes every night. That's enough. Read to your children. Read to the people around you. You can take the training. It's free online. And then where that will take you later in your journey of life, only you know, and only you can put the limit. Why? Because our motto, as Mashoud mentioned, is the butterfly. And the butterfly, it's part of physics, back to Professor Gandhi. It's the chaos theory, which says when a butterfly flutters its wings, it moves the air a centimeter at most, but that results in change in time and space beyond what we can imagine, to create a hurricane somewhere else, right? So each person is a butterfly, and each person is unique and can have an impact in time and space beyond their imagination. So, dream big, have confidence in yourself, trust yourself, and nothing is impossible. And I can't wait to hear your stories and to see what is going to happen to this world.
Thank you, Professor Dajani, for this wonderful conclusion, and thank you, Dr. Gandhi, as well for joining us and sharing your wonderful perspectives. Thank you to our audience. Thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you tomorrow in our next Tea Talks as well. Thank you.